So you're here because you pulled Gauche and you didn't get Noelle and Charmy. Just kidding. Hopefully you got Noelle and Charmy as well, but in all honesty, if you got Gauche, don't fear, he's not as bad as everyone makes him out to seem, okay? He actually has his uses, and I think Gauche is a okay character. I'm not gonna say he's good. I'm not gonna say he's bad either. He is okay. He okay, you know what? So there you go. He has uses in the game. He'll be all right. He's a viable option for PvE. He's a viable option for PvP. Are there better units? Yes, of course there are, but you know, Gauche is a solid option. Okay, so let's talk about what he can do. Then we'll talk about how to gear him, whether you should enhance him or not, whether you should be investing in his talents or not, and then what kinds of teams he could potentially fit on and be good on for PvP and PvE. So to start with, let's take a look at his skill 1. It is called Mirror Sunbeam. It grants a level 1 weapon enhancement buff to all allies with HP equal to or above 80% for 1 turn. So as long as your allies have 80% or more HP, then he is going to grant them a weapon enhancement of level 1, which increases their damage dealt by 30%. Upon landing, a crit removes 1 instance of continuous damage from all allies. So if you give him crit rate and speed for skill 1, then you will potentially be able to increase your allies' damage and remove continuous damage, okay? Now, in terms of Gauche's speed, if we look at his speed, he actually has a fairly high speed of 110, so that's not terrible. So he could hopefully go first before your other allies and actually increase their overall damage. So that's pretty nice. So that's why, like, in terms of gear, I'll just say it now before we even get to the gear, a potential option is speed gear for Gauche. However, I do not have speed gear on mine, but that is an option, okay? So just to put that out there. And then for skill 2, grants an increased all attack level 3 buff to an ally for 2 turns. This is just for 1 ally, so that kind of sucks, but it does increase all of their skills, attack and magic attack by 50%, so that's a pretty good amount of increase. And then additionally, 60% chance to grant an ally an increased penetration level 2 buff for 2 turns, which is a 40% increase. So imagine you put this like on Noelle, and then she does her AoE attack. That's an extra 50% magic attack, who, by the way, Noelle thrives with magic attack, and an extra 40% increased penetration. So Gauche actually works really well with Summer Noelle. Additionally, you can grant that ally Intense Sunlight, which will increase their damage dealt by 5%. You can stack this up to 3 times on your ally and it cannot be removed. So eventually your ally could have an extra 15% permanent damage, which is really nice. So that's really cool. And then for his special skill, Cute Marie is the best. Uses 10% of current HP to grant all allies a 30% reduced damage taken buff for 2 turns. That is really good, except for the fact where it says uses 10% of your current HP. So this is the problem with Gauche, is subtracting your HP when you might already be struggling to keep your HP in PvP. So how do you fix this? Well, simply put, you run Gauche, I would say, alongside Charmy, because Charmy has continuous healing. And so if you run Gauche alongside Charmy, then he will just be healing that back up. Additionally, you can put HP gear on Gauche, and that HP gear will give him more HP, so it's not a big deal if you lose 10% of it, okay? Because you'll still have quite a bit of HP left. And then, like I said, you can just use Mimosa or Charmy to heal you back up. And then grants all allies an increased accuracy level 3 buff for 2 turns. This is the other problem with Gauche. Accuracy doesn't really do anything right now in the game, so we'll see if it becomes important. It's just not all that important in the game right now, so that's why that's not super useful. And then last but not least, grants all allies continuous damage immunity for 2 turns. That is really good, and so that's going to stop you from getting poisoned or stop you from taking burn damage or stuff like that. So a lot of these things, to me, in my head, scream out pair Gauche with Charmy, okay? And that would be my advice to you. If you pair Gauche and Charmy together, I bet you they work immaculately, okay? Gauche by himself, though, it's a tough call, all right? To be fair, he's probably not that great. But then on to gear for Gauche. So what I said before was that you should put speed gear on him if you have it. I am very limited on gear. All my LR gear is on better characters, I'm not gonna lie. So I took what SSR and UR gear I had and tried to put together something here, but eventually when I have enough gear to LR put LR gear on all of my LRs. You know, I will put LR gear here. That is the correct gear for him. But basically what I would go for build wise for Gauche is like defense and then also some HP. So like defense, HP build, and then potentially speed is like your third substat. So I would go like defense, HP, or HP and speed, or just defense and HP. Now the reason I say go HP is because of his special skill. If you increase his HP, that means whenever you lose 10% of your HP on your special, it's not going to hurt you as much. Okay, that's the reason I say that. And then if you have defense, if you put Gauche on a stall team, because he's you know, reducing damage. What is he doing? He's because he is granting reduced damage here to all allies by 30%, and he's also giving continuous damage immunity. You put him on a stall team, he works really well as a defensive unit. So if you put this defensive unit with other defensive units, he's going to be really, really good. So that's why you want HP and defense gear potentially on Gauche. That's probably the best build, but if you can get speed in there, you know, do speed gear. There are gears that have speed buffs. I think it's the Traveler's one. Am I looking at the right one? Yeah, right here. Okay, so I do have 2 pieces of that on Gauche, which is helping him right now. If the wearer is afflicted with a status ailment, grants a 20% increased speed buff for 1 turn. Now, he's probably not going to be inflicted with a status element easily, so keep that in mind. And then grants a 4% increased speed buff to the wearer for 1 turn at the start of combat. If you can get all 4 pieces on Gauche, that is actually pretty good. Okay, so defense, HP, speed. That's kind of what you want for Gauche. That's going to be your best gear build for him. And then for skills, let's talk about skills and skill card. You know, which one you should be working on first. I would personally recommend working on his special skill first, because let's just face it, his special skill is the best thing he has. He reduces damage taken even more as you upgrade it. So if you can upgrade that first, that would be nice. And then if you, I guess that's if you're going for the stall team that I was talking about. If you're going for an attack team, like maybe you have season 1 Asta, or maybe you have Noelle, you want to put that increased all attack on somebody, then you might want to upgrade skill 2, because as you upgrade skill 2, it'll increase intense sunlight's damage, it'll increase your penetration, and it'll just make you give overall more damage to whatever ally you put that on. So I would say special skill and skill 2 interchangeable. You can upgrade either one first, just depends on what you're going for. If you're going for a defensive stall team, go for special skill. If you're going for an attack team, go for skill 2. And then last, you should be upgrading skill 1. Skill 1 is just not, it's like, it's cute because it works early in the battle, but I feel like later in the battle, when your HP isn't above 80%, it's not going to be as useful unless you have a full barrier team, in which case it could be useful, which comes back to the stall team. So once again, if you're doing a stall team, you still want to do this first. All right, so that's for Gauche's skill order. And then for skill cards, what can you run? You could obviously run his skill card, which is pretty good. At the start of every wave, there is a 24% chance to grant continuous damage immunity, so even more immunity to damage for 2 turns. If it does not work, grants poison immunity for 2 turns, so that's honestly pretty good. The other skill card that I might run on Gauche would be this one. I also recommended this one for Charmy, but I like this skill card for his special because it applies 10 to 20% increased max HP to yourself. You could also potentially run a defensive SSR skill card on him, so you know, just do whatever you want there, but those are the 2 that I would kind of teeter between or choose between personally. So those would be the 2 I recommend. And then as for enhancement levels, if we take a look at Gauche's enhancements, so at level 2 enhancement, upon using skill 2, grants a random ally intense sunlight. Like, that's okay. And then for the fully enhanced, upon using skill 2 and a special skill, grants a random ally intense sunlight. So that just gives you extra stacks of intense sunlight as you use your moves, which is a 5% buff. Like, and it can only be stacked up to 3 times. I guess it's okay, but as far as like, it's just not worth it. It's not that much extra damage, I feel like, and for how long it takes, by the time you actually stack 3 stacks of intense sunlight on an ally, the battle's over, right? If you're in PvP, it's just not worth it. The stacking takes too long to make use of it. If it was a higher percentage than 5%, it might be worth it. So yeah, it's just not that great. I wouldn't recommend enhancing Gauche. So out of the 3 new seasonal units, Charmy, Noelle, and Gauche, like, I would recommend upgrading Charmy and Noelle with the enhancement menu, but I probably wouldn't recommend it with Gauche. He's just not worth it. I don't feel like the enhancement is going to be all that great. The enhancement does, of course, increase your overall combat class, so you could do it just for that, but other than that, it's really not going to do much for you. And then as for talents, if we take a look at these, the attack talents don't really matter. Gauche is never going to be your attacker. He's not going to do a lot of damage. But defense talents, I would go with these two right here. Grants defense plus 4% and crit resist plus 2% up to 5 times at the start of a wave. And then max HP plus 5%. I like that extra max HP, like I was saying, for the special skill. And then for the support, I would go with HP recovered received plus 5%. That's an extra HP recovery if someone's healing you, like from Charmy or Mimosa, which is going to help you recover your health, which will be nice. Once again, it comes down to a special skill, why I say use the HP recovered. And then you could either go with this one or the other one. So this one grants a SP plus 1 buff upon having less than 2 SPs at the start of a turn. If you don't know what SPs are special points that let you use your special skill. Okay, and then resolution grants debuff immunity for 1 turn upon resisting damage successfully. So this one's also another good option. You could potentially run these two right here together, and that would be another good option for Gauche. So that's for his talent trees. Those are the talents I would recommend. The other talents around here I didn't go over because they're not going to be super useful. I would go with one of those ones that I mentioned right there as far as Gauche's talents go. And then as for teams, let's talk about what potential teams Gauche could fit on to be good. So if we go to manage teams here, I already have one set up that I really like. I like the idea of Gauche and Charmy just being really annoying with like Mars and Lotus as a defense team. It could be really freaking annoying going against that. Another potential team is, like I said before, if we were to switch out for Noelle and use Noelle, Mars, Gauche, and Charmy, I feel like those would all potentially work fairly well together too, because you just got a lot of healing, a lot of extra defense, a lot of reduced damage, a lot of barrier. There's just a lot going on here between these 4 characters. It could be insanely good. And one other option, this would be more of like an attack team if you're not going to be stalling as much. You could run Yami, and you could run, let's say, you could run like Lotus. Sure, that's an all blue team still. A lot of these teams here that I'm recommending are blue teams because I feel like Gauche is going to fit well or best on a mono blue team. So you could potentially run something like this. This would be more of your attack oriented team. You use Lotus for the debuffs, you use Yami for the damage, you use these two for the heals and the damage resist and stuff like that. And I feel like that could also work out fairly well. But that is it for Gauche. Hopefully this helps you guys out a little bit if you did pull him. And once again, I genuinely hope you did pull Charmy and Noelle too, or at least one of them. But if you didn't, you know, Gauche isn't all that bad, so don't be that sad. And if you guys enjoyed the video, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.